Everyone, it's me, Coffee Stitcher. It's Monday, Labor Day in America. I guess Monday everywhere else. As per usual, I'm doing it on Monday because 3-day weekends, I usually don't get much done on Sundays. So how is everybody? Did you have a good week? Awesome. Awesome, that's really good to hear. Alright, I have a little tiny bit of haul, one of which I'll show, the rest of it I'm not, because it's kind of pointless. It's just, Joann's had the 4 for $1 sale on DMC, so I went and I picked up the rest of the floss that I needed for, my already going projects. So we've got that, we've got a lot more Q&A than normal, which I like. Got some whip updates, a minor adjustment to my goals for the month. Not a major adjustment, just a slight minor one. And then, the continuation of Oz coloring books, since that seemed to be popular. Alright, so, we'll start with a little bit of haul that I did, and it's not even really cross-stitch related, but I found this really cute Mary Inglebright Santa wall hanging. And it's a Pusilla applique kit. So I haven't looked at it too much in depth. I took it out of the plastic because the plastic was super reflective. But it doesn't really look like it's going to be overly involved. A lot of Christmas red in it. But stitch-wise, there's some French knots, a tiny bit of cording, satin stitch, straight stitch, back stitch. It doesn't look like there's any lazy daisies. So, yeah. So I picked that up. That was my one little bit of haul. So we'll go to our Q&A. Cat B asks, did you start out stitching on 16 count Aida, and if so, did it scare you to move to a different count and weave fabrics? Was it a hard transition to make, or did you find it very easy? Also, have you ever seen the Sleepy Hollow cross stitch pattern by Glendon Place on 123 Stitch? Yes. I started out on 14 count. And I did my first 3 projects on 14 count Aida. And that would be the Emerald City, my Brooks Books Dorothy, and my There's No Place Like Home. Then I really wanted to do the Something Wicked sampler, that mystery sampler that Sam Sarah did, and that was only on linen, so I made the jump. It was on, I think it was on 28, but it may have been on 32. But I think it was on 28. And it wasn't, it took a little getting used to. It wasn't like it took me days to figure it out. It took probably about a half an hour. But once I got it figured out, it went pretty smoothly. So I found it pretty easy. I know some people have found it harder. I still have never used an even weave. I've only used linen and Aida, so. And yes, I have seen the Sleepy Hollow pattern by Glendon Place. I think it's pretty cool. I don't know if I'll ever do it because I really love the Cricket Collection one more. Thanks to everyone who kind of commented about Joe and the pink dress. Probably maroon or blue is what I'm gonna go with. Blue seemed to be the strong suggestion. I've never read the book, so if she wore a maroon dress to the ball where she meets Lori, then I think I would rather go for maroon, but I'll kind of leave that. So those who have read it and can confirm maroon dress, please do. If not, I'll do it in blue. I'll do it that way. Because I very well may get to that this week. Let's see. Southern Stitcher asks, am I doing blue jeans and daisies on the recommended fabric? I'm doing it on the recommended color. It's charted on Blue Jeans by Weeks Dye Works. It gives you the option for 30 and 35 count. I feel like my LNS, I think I'm doing it on 30. My LNS was out of 35, and I think the model was stitched on 35. But I'm doing it on 30, and I'm doing it with the DMC instead of the Weeks Dye Works. Aussie Stitcher wants to know if I have many UFOs, and if would I be willing to tell you how many? I've got, let's see, there was the Awful Oz project, which I did physically throw away, and it's gone, so it's definitely unfinished and will never be finished. There's the Thomas Kincaid Little Mermaid, because full coverage isn't for me. At least full coverage like that. The Frosted Pumpkin Once Upon a Time, as well as my restarted Watsits, those seem to have kind of my original Once Upon a Time, it went bye-bye because I didn't have enough fabric. The restarted one, because it was just too many changes. And I wasn't really enjoying that. So that's why those are gone. I think that's kind of everything that's unfinished that I don't plan to go back to. So 3 or 4? Auntie Gin Stitches has a lot of questions that she's been saving up for. Number 1, what happened to Scream House? You need to conquer your fears of the construction and get back to that project. If you hadn't put it on hold, you'd be almost done by now. Actually, I would be done by now. Some of it was I really kind of just lost interest. Part of it was because it was a little bit fiddly. Part of it was because the fabric is a specific size and you're fitting it all. If you're not working in the very center of the fabric, you're having to do a lot of like hand tightening as you're holding it, and that gets old for me. And I kind of had lost interest. So it's not one I've abandoned completely. I do plan to finish it one day, but as of now, I'm just kind of not interested. Number 2, now that you have the kit for Pumpkin Passport, I can ask you this. I really like the Weeks Dye Works navy that's used for Let's Go on an Adventure, but I really want to do the word adventure in red. I want the red to be equal in value to the navy in terms of variegation, but I also want it to fit with the rest of the colors. I would either do cayenne or brick. It kind of depends. Brick, from both our Weeks Dye Works, brick is a little bit more brown, and cayenne is a little bit more red. So it's kind of your call there on which you would rather do. But I think either brick or cayenne would be very good choices. Number 3, could you come meet up with us on our honeymoon? That would be a little weird for him. I wouldn't think anything of it, but I think that would really kind of freak him out. So I'm going to say no, but thank you for asking. Grand Prairie is on the other side, and then the last question was how far do I live from Grand Prairie, because they're opening a new IKEA there. Close-ish. It's on the other side of Arlington from where I am. But it's not far. It's closer than Dallas. Paula So Scrap Muse asks, isn't Remy an alcoholic drink? I don't drink. If it's not a vodka stinger, or a strawberry daiquiri, or a pina colada, or a white Russian, that's about the extent of my drinks that I know. And yes, those banners are a pain. Let's see. Stitch and Petunia asks, how do I like my coffee? Do you have a favorite brand or flavor? Let's see. It depends on the coffee. I generally do like it with some milk and sugar in it. I don't really have a favorite brand. I tend to go for medium roast out of Africa or dark roasts. I'm not a big fan of lighter roast coffees. But I don't really have a favorite brand or flavor. Lark Laughing asks, have I seen the Oz coloring book by Eric Shanower? Yes, I have. I don't have it, but I have seen it. And yes, his work is fantastic, and he's actually a really nice guy. And I've thought about doing the reviews of Oz books, but I would have to find time to read them, because with the exception of, obviously, with the exception of Wizard, Land, Ozma, and Dorothy and the Wizard and Oz, most of them I've only read once. Michelle Alice asks, where can she find Blue Jeans and Daisies? It's by Blue Ribbon Designs. I believe she sells it on her own website, 123 Stitch. Any LNS should have it. But it's by Belinda Carlsnace of Blue Ribbon Designs. And it's fabulous. So, she's definitely one of those that I will keep doing. That sounded wrong. She's definitely one of those designers whose charts I will keep doing. Sorry, Belinda. Okay. So, we have the start on to the whips. So, we had, of course, the start of the month, which meant the Brooks books, Magical Creatures got started, and work on the Oz SAL. So those were what I primarily worked on this week, with Things Unseen still being worked on at work. So that's what I'm going to show you. Let's see. First is the Flying Monkey. And the only real switches I basically used everything that was called for. I used Krynic for the gold. This is actually Brick from Weeks Dye Works. So there you go, Auntie Jen. That's what Brick looks like. Cayenne is a little bit brighter. And then I used red fuzzy stuff from Rainbow Gallery to be the tips of his wings. So he turned out super cute. He was a lot of fun. Oh, and then I used little gold Delica beads for here. So he was a lot of fun. I'm now officially 3/4 of the way through The Land of Oz. Next month is Her Fabulous Wickedness, the Wicked Witch of the West. Followed by the Quadling, and last but not least, Glinda, the Good Witch of the South. So next week, I'll do the discussion on the Flying Monkeys. I say that if there's time at the end of this video, I'll do a discussion on the Flying Monkeys. So you may get a Flying Monkey discussion. Or winged monkey discussion, sort of, depending. Then came Magical Creatures. This month was a fawn, or a satyr. I've seen him, I think officially he's a fawn, but a lot of people have said satyr. Which really, there's not a lot of difference between the two. The biggest difference is probably what they actually tend to do. So that I made a few big changes, I should say. One, I took out the cloud, because as we all know, Garrett doesn't like to stitch clouds unless there's a purpose behind them, like a tornado, or you're in the sky and you need to place them that they're in the sky, like the unicorns or the phoenix. Otherwise, I don't like stitching clouds. I think they look dumb. I don't know why I think they look dumb, I just always have. So, I've gotten better about it, but there are times where I'm just like, nope, not doing a cloud. I decided I wanted it to be more fall-like. I used all Weeks Dye Works with the exception of one. Well, and the black. So, I took out the bright green for the grass and replaced it with Loden, so that it would look more like dying grass. I converted the little path to a stone path. And then the big change was the tree. I used red clay by Gloriana and made a fall tree. So there you have it. And then I used blue, obviously, for the month. So we're also officially 3/4 of the way through Magical Creatures. So we've got a witch, fairies, and the Yeti left. This is on 32 Count Lilith by Die Stitch Love. So I'm enjoying this. I'm going to be a little sad when this one's done, because it's been a fun stitch. But we're getting there. We are getting there. Alright, I almost finished the SAL. It's going to be my work piece this week, because all that's left is the mountains and the clouds behind the witch. So there's where we are. So I finished up her wickedness, and I got the flying monkey in. Or I got Nico. Nico is the name of the flying monkey in the movie. So, there we go. And I'm guessing that the last piece is probably going to be the 4 Friends on the Way to Emerald City. Because I think that was in her early sneak preview. But this was my slight tweak to my rotation. I didn't realize, I thought it was coming out before the 30th. It's actually not. It's coming out, the last part comes out on the 30th. So I will be finishing it in October. Because that's kind of how it goes, unfortunately. So my plan is now just to finish part 3 and Glinda, versus finish the entire project, because I won't have time. Because I know these squares are just are involved enough. There's no way I can do it in a day. So, but this is going to be my piece for work this week. So, yes, there are a pair of scissors in there, so I just got to put a Q-snap to it. All right. So, I worked on Things Unseen at work pretty much all month. And I got the border basically done. I'm far enough that I'm okay with where it's at. So I've got started on the butterfly yesterday. Butterfly's down below the bird. And then it's just the house, the weird little plant thing, the sheep, and then the little black checkerboard beneath it. So I should be able to finish that this month with no problem. So, and that's actually what I'll be working on when the video is done. Alright, so that's what I've worked on. So that's going to be my next thing this week, is going to be that. And then beyond that, my next thing up will be the story time. And do my 2 pieces for it. Which again are Little Women and A Christmas Carol. So, okay. I think that kind of brings us to the Oz portion of the video. So we'll go ahead, we'll do this week's coloring book. It is by Landalls. This one is one that got reissued with several different covers through the early mid-90s. There were more in the series, including Thumbelina and Beauty and the Beast. This one's retold and illustrated by someone named Gita. The cover does show Dorothy in silver shoes. The cover illustrations don't match the interior illustrations at all. I'm trying to find a good picture. Yeah. Cover, interior. I don't think... And it gives you a general rundown of the story. Let's see. Yeah, Dorothy and her friends look under rocks to find the Wicked Witch. You can tell it's geared for the small ones. The flying monkeys are kind of bizarre. More like flying lizard people than monkeys, but whatever. This one keeps the really weird idea of the witch already having the magic slippers, and Dorothy gets them when she melts them. Yeah, they're just magic shoes. So I was thinking this one had ruby slippers, but it doesn't. There's a sticker book that Landals also did, and I think that one actually put her in ruby slippers. So, this one was obviously 3 for 99 cents in 1993 at Michael's. So there you go. So here's the next one in the series. So we've got 3 more to go. One from the 90s, one from the early 2000s, and one that just came out this year. So. Alright, so. Flying monkeys. And actually, I want to grab my book real quick, because I want to make sure I'm getting names correct. Or I guess I should say winged monkey. Okay, so the winged monkeys appear in the Wonderful Wizard of Oz. They are slaves to the Wicked Witch of the West, but unlike in the movie where they're just sort of like henchmen, they're actually controlled by a golden cap, which is featured in Brooks' design for the Wicked Witch. And the golden cap allows whoever owns it has 3 uses for the flying monkeys. The Wicked Witch uses them prior to Dorothy's arrival. Uses it the first time to enslave the Winkies. She uses it the second time because the wizard starts coming into her territory and she wants him out. The third time is obviously to capture Dorothy and her friends when all other efforts have failed. The golden cap came into being when the monkeys, originally the winged monkeys, were a free people. They lived in a forest in the northern part of Oz called Gillikin, and this is the only real appearance of Gillikin in the book, in the first book. And they're monkeys. They're mischievous. And in the north, there was a powerful sorceress, sort of implied to be the Witch of the North, named Gaylette. And she lived in this beautiful palace, and when she was, because she's a powerful sorceress, she doesn't really age. And one day she found a boy who she fell in love with and decided, well, when he grows into a man, I'm going to marry him. His name was Quilala. Queelala. Closest I can get you to it. And he did grow up to be a spectacular person. And the monkeys one day are doing their monkey thing, and they see Quilala walking around all dressed in silk and velvet and fancy schmancy. And they decided to play a joke, and they picked him up and dropped him in a nearby river. And so that sort of ruins silk and velvet. And he actually found it funny, and the monkeys, of course, found it funny, but Gaylette did not. And she originally planned to just have the monkeys killed, tied up, thrown in the river where they couldn't get free. And Quilala was like, no, that's not okay. They really didn't mean any harm. And so she agreed to spare them. However, she said on the condition that I create this golden cap and they're slaves to whoever owns it. Now, there's no real clear indication of what happens once the third wish is done. What do the monkeys do then? Do they just have to kind of chill out until someone else comes into power with it? It's not really said. So obviously the witch gets it through whatever means. It's never really clearly stated. She uses them. She's killed. Dorothy uses them first to get back to the Emerald City from the witch's castle because they get lost. The second time she uses it trying to get them to help her get home to Kansas, but they're basically like, sorry, that's transporting a minor over state lines. Pretty much. I mean, there's no flying monkeys in Kansas, so they can't go there. The third time they use it to get over the hill of Hammerheads on their way to see Glinda. And the Hammerheads are these horrible creatures that have no arms, and they have flat top heads, and they have crazy extendable necks. And they basically play King of the Mountain. You try to cross their mountain, they're going to knock you over with their heads. True story. So they use the flying monkeys to get them over. And then eventually Glinda, when Dorothy arrives, she gives the cap to Glinda. Glinda uses the cap 3 times, once to get the Scarecrow back to Emerald City, once to get the Lion back to his to his home in the forest, and once to get the Tin Man to the land of the West. And then she gives the cap to the captain of the winged monkeys, and that's the last we ever see of them. They do show up in some non-canonical books. They show up in one of the prequels written by Donald Abbott. I think it's How the Wizard Came to Oz. They show up, of course, in Wicked. They show up in Paul Schneider's fabulous book, Silver Shoes. And, of course, they're in the classic MGM movie, where a lot of people were apparently terrified of them. Creepy monkey. None of the monkeys are ever named in the book. In Wicked, he's named Chistery. In the MGM film, he's named Nico. And in the 1990s animated series, he's named Truckle. No real reason given for any of that. And in fact, he's never even called by name in the 39 film. He's just listed in the credits. And why Pat Walsh was able to get his name, I mean, he must have had a really good agent, because I can't figure out how, above all the other roles in the film. I mean, I guess the Munchkins got one collective billing, but I guess that would kind of be it. I mean, but what made him be so singled out? So, anyhow, that's the Flying Monkeys. So, yeah. Alright, well, y'all have a great rest of your week, and I will see y'all on Sunday.